Who wants a pot of coffee? I just made coffee. You want a cup of coffee? Sure, there you go. Who wants coffee? Anybody else want coffee? Who wants coffee?
And now it's time for the man with the caffeine, the new tropics for the brain. It's Coffee with Mike. Hang in, hang tight, grab your cup, and let's get this thing started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Java Chat. Today, I have a special guest out of a slightly different realm than entrepreneurship, who happens to be a real good friend of mine. And I said, hey, you should come on a Java Chat. We should have a chat. And he's like, sure, why not? He is the CFO of one of the credit unions here in Nevada. But he's also, actually, I have to correct myself. He is kind of an entrepreneur because he started a chamber of commerce, which is something that, not most people would wake up in the morning and go, I think I'm going to start me a chamber of commerce just for, to see how that works. Not only did he launch it, but he's already let it go. In other words, he's already been through the cycle of entrepreneurship just with that venture. So I said, yeah, man, come on over and let's hang out and let's have a cup of coffee. So let me introduce you to Mr. Ray Wilson. Ray, thank you for coming on Java Chat and hanging out with me.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Good morning, happy Friday, and thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite, and yes, I'm raring to go.
Okay, cool. What we usually do, and everybody knows this format, is we usually find out where you're from. Who are you? What have you done? Where have you been? And all that kind of stuff. So, you're not originally from Las Vegas. You are actually originally from, I believe, Cleveland,
Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio. Is that where, this is going to sound really strange, is that where the Drew Carey show came from originally?
Yes, Drew Carey, proud of Cleveland.
Yeah, and great dude, by the way. A friend of mine's ran into him at the bar, and they ended up hanging out and having drinks and stuff. And I used to love watching his show. His show was awesome. Tell me what it's like, man, growing up in Cleveland. What, what led you into being the analytical numbers guy that you are?
Sure. And that's a great start. Michael, again, a great shout out to Cleveland. I love Cleveland. Cleveland's who I am. It's my DNA. Las Vegas, as you know, is home. I love Las Vegas, but my core values, Cleveland, Ohio. I rave about Cleveland, also rant about Cleveland. I'm a big sports fan, as you know, and so follow the.
Hey, the Browns have gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. Yes. I got to tell you, they've really stepped up and started playing better. And of course, the sister city is in the Super Bowl this year. So
yes, that's Cincinnati. So it's interesting. So being from Cleveland, Ohio, love our city. I love that work ethic. I love that nitty gritty. That strong core values, the blue collar, all that move and so forth. And, it's Cleveland in terms of outside of the weather, which right now I believe my brother just sent me a note, 5 feet of snow right now. We're at 7-degree weather here, Mike. Gosh, so, but in terms of the analytics, I guess it even goes back to high school. Proud of Lakewood High School, go Rangers, and taking some accounting classes in there, and I realized I really have a good, strong aptitude for numbers. I always enjoyed that, working and starting, doing. Of course, at that time it was an abacus. we don't have the Excel spreadsheets and so forth, and went to Cleveland State University, go Vikings. I was a undergrad double major actually in finance and business economics, and then got my master's in accounting and IT, and it just kind of numbers always just
time out. Did you say accounting and IT information technology?
Yeah. Or technically management information systems. And,
but still, that's they're complete. I didn't know you had that.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I have my master's. Actually, at Mathis is a Master of Accountancy and Financial Information Systems.
Yeah. Well, then still, I mean, that's accounting and IT are essentially separate, even though they cross over like
True.
that. But
True.
I never knew you had that, and that means we can nerd out on some computer stuff. So we're gonna have to do that sometime too.
That's right. That's right. That's why we're having coffee. That's how.
Yeah, well, we got plenty of stuff to talk about just this round. I'm sure we might have to do a second round.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm all for that, Michael. So, it's interesting when I think about IS at the time. Remember Fortran, COBOL, those languages.
Oh yeah, COBOL.
Oh my gosh. And so, but yeah, with the accounting, and I guess it's interesting. When I came out of college, I was actually in manufacturing, Michael, believe it or not,
Really?
in the early 80s. And so, I came through from manufacturing. I came to a point in my career in the late 80s to, okay, if I wanted to be a CFO, one, I wanted to get some SEC, Security Exchange Commission, which is your public accounting, financial reporting experience. Two, I wanted to get some cash management, treasury experience. And then thirdly, I wanted to get experience where, from a global organization where I could certainly progress throughout the organization. And it just so happened that one of the larger banks headquartered in Cleveland at the time offered me an opportunity to run one of their asset liability management departments there. And it's interesting. So I'm a banker, but I never really thought of myself as a banker. Today I see myself really for the years past, more of a financial accounting advisor is the way I look at it, where work with folks and in this case, work with a company to provide, certainly the analytics, the strategic, in terms of as we create the vision for this organization as well as organizations of the past, and competitively and how we deliver our product, our delivery channels to our product and services to our members. And so that's how I always seen myself as, versus just being a banker per se. Now, again,
you had that moment of that's interesting. You early on already recognized a need for a strategy in order to be able to hit already the different levels before you could ever make it to CFO. What was that in college that you had already done that, or were you already thinking of that before?
It was actually right after I got out of grad school.
Okay.
From State University, I realized that strategically, when you look at the success or lack of success for companies, it really rests in terms of that strategic vision, and you can't rest on your laurels. You've got to continually look at how do we become better? How do we because your consumer market is always changing. You've got to identify trends, influences, and I just see it all the time, and so you have to morph yourself. If you don't change, and we've talked about companies that we grew up with, Michael, that were the stalwarts, and all of a sudden they're no longer. And it's interesting, and things that you just took for granted, now you got
especially
in the financial services industry, fintech. Financial technology companies. So you've got to continually keep abreast of what's happening. Otherwise, somebody will have your lunch. And
it's interesting. You're starting to sound more like a CMO and a CEO than a CFO. Just saying. But it's good to hear because and I know a couple of other CFOs, and they are starting to sound like this too. Not that it's not something that CFOs don't do. They're always a part of, hey, how's our strategy doing? What are we doing? Because here's what I'm seeing in the numbers. Here's some of the trends. Here's some of the upwards and the downwards of what I see that's happening in the marketplace. And of course, sometimes the other C-levels are like, I'm doing my job. And it's like, well, we're trying to profit a company here. Mm-hmm. Becoming that consultant in the position that you're in now, what are some of the things that you're seeing that lead to some of the successes that you guys are hitting?
Yeah, well, certainly, what we see, and certainly in the trends, in banking, we grew up with banks, credit unions, now, Michael, your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, well, hey, I just opened up my first bank account. Well, it's, wow, where did you, hometown community bank? No, mom, dad, I opened it up with a online, with an Amazon or Google type company. It's like, wow, and so you're seeing so much of that activity, which is good. I've always said before, that's the, those are the things that you have those options. People will ask me, Michael, Ray, what keeps you up at night? And that's the fact that I wake up in the morning and I'm no longer relevant. Okay, I'm now irrelevant. Why? Well, Ray, your organization can't fulfill the needs and don't deliver the products and services that I'm looking for. I'm an online virtual type Gen Zer, millennial, whomever, and I'm able to go 2 a.m, apply for a mortgage and get, within seconds.
Oh yeah, that blows my mind.
Yeah, and so that's great. That's technology. That's change. We all deserve it. We all, if I can't deliver what you need, Michael, you have options, and so and so you got to continue to think about the trends, the influencers, what's happening out there, because it's things are changing, and so you've got to have that ability to be agile, be accountable, be able to move, and then surround yourself with folks, in terms of being, I always like to hire people that are smarter than me, because those are the people that, you rise to that level to be able to, work, collaborate. And certainly here at the executive team, we work together. So while I'm the CFO, we're really in a collaborative fashion, executive consultants, as we deliver to what our members here at the credit union, need and so forth. So we're always thinking, what if, that's next and so forth.
Before this and before the chamber, there was obviously a progression as you started working. So you were talking earlier about you were in manufacturing, you started looking at, hey, I needed to get to the deal. You got to the first bank. What were some of the things that you had to evolve in order to be able to make it to where you're at today?
Sure. Well, certainly, and you're gonna find it surprising, back in the early 80s, grad school, accounting, I was really just your basic, quiet, bookworm, nerdy type guy.
The typical socially awkward dude, which
yes,
you are not by any stretch socially awkward.
Yes.
I'll tell you guys more about that here in a minute, but
yeah. And I'll never forget, I was relocated down to Southern Ohio, down southeastern, and I'll never forget I was brought in as a CFO for a community hometown bank that had been around well over 100 years. And I remember having a conversation with the CEO, and he indicated, Ray, you're the #2 person in this organization. You are a brand ambassador. You will get out there in the community. He was a Paul Harris fellow, part of the Rotarian group. And, it's interesting. I said, okay, this is something new to me, because I was not used to going and quote business networking. When you said networking, I thought of IT, connectivity. And then I realized, going to some of the chamber events and going to charity events, and I realized that goes to the territory, Mike. As a senior level executive, it's just expected. It goes with territory, and you got to change. You got to, and so it was one of those I don't know, hidden talents that I had, that I realized, hey, I kind of like this, and so that was really the start. I'll never forget. That was 1992, and I just realized that, I kind of like this stuff. I kind of like, speak with people, love to chat, also love to listen, and and I realized, getting your message across, having that communication, having that dialogue, is so critical. And so you now took me over, away from just a regular cubicle, I feel like what was that TV series, The Office, and all of a sudden you're out there. Because folks then look to you, whether you like it or not, as a so-called expert. And you got to know what the heck you're talking about. And, people look to you that, they don't know your background other than they know that you're the senior vice president, CFO, chief financial officer, whether a controller, a treasurer. And so that's the expectation. And so I enjoy that. I enjoy it, certainly here in the community, Las Vegas. I like getting out there. I'm not a spectator, as you know.
I got to tell you. First time I met you, at the time you were with Toyota Financial Bank.
Correct.
And everybody said, hey, you got to go meet Ray Wilson. And of course, I'm just digging in and going, sure, who's Ray Wilson? It's like, you're going to like him. You're going to like his personality. He's such a cool dude. I'm like, I like cool people. Where is he? And the first time we met, your presence alone was so warm and welcoming. I was like, this is going to be a friend. This is not just going to be a colleague or some business connection. This guy's freaking cool. And I remember your greeting. Hey, Ray Wilson, how are you? Welcome. And that was the big word was welcome all the time. That's what caught me, was like, this is ingrained in this man. This is not some manufactured thing that he does. This is who he is. He is welcoming and he wants to know who you are.
Yes.
And in business networking, for anybody that, I follow and I'm friends with Joe Applebaum on LinkedIn, who does a ton of networking on LinkedIn and offline as well. He's a lot like you. He is a lot like you in your history too. Was very quiet, very reserved, didn't really want to put himself out there. Was very, he wasn't confident in who he was. Now he's freaking everywhere, which is wonderful. And it's the same story as you. It's if you're going to go out and be a business networker, you have to get past your own blocks, whatever they are. You have to get past your own insecurities. One of the things that I learned as I was learning how to network was nobody cares.
Yeah.
Your job is to make them care. It's not about your looks. It's not about your voice. It's not about, well, there are some things that you do need to take care of, personal hygiene and things like that, but for the most part, nobody cares. And as long as you approach somebody with the same mentality of, I just want to know who you are.
Yes.
Who are you? What do you do? Give me some background. Let's have a chat.
Yes.
A lot of the older networkers used to say, well, make sure you have your elevator pitch and all that kind of stuff. And I learned over time with certain master networkers. In fact, I got one of these. When somebody says, well, what do you do? Like as little as possible. And they look up and they're like, okay, I wasn't expecting that, or oh, that, okay, yeah, I think a lot of us try to do that. Like, yeah, either that or try to get people to invite me over for dinner.
Sure. And
that just completely breaks their cycle, and they don't know what to do. And I'm like, it's just a simple thing. If I don't get to know you, what am I supposed to do? How do I support you?
Correct. I agree.
So that's cool, man. If anybody ever gets to meet Ray out in public, the things that I've said will come in loud and clear because he's just that kind of a guy. Maybe it is a gift that's been hidden for years that you brought out back after that when you got to that little bank there. But I can tell you guys from personal experience, he's one of the guys that if I see a networking event, one of the first questions out of my mouth is, where's Ray? Where's the boys? Because it's usually Ray's usually there, and then the boys. I'm talking about Rich Shaw and all the other guys, Mike Cesar and all those guys. But these are the people that tend to be at most networking events, and are the guys that you want to at least get to and say hello and know that they're there. They give you energy to get charged up, especially after a long day. I mean, come on, you work a long day, I work a long day. We get to a networking event, we're like, just give me a nice tea. Give me a coffee. but you see somebody like Ray's like, yes, Ray's here. Good. How you doing, Ray? How you been?
Agree.
Cool. Guys, we're going to take a short pause, 30 seconds. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the things that motivated and kept Ray moving in the right direction, his evolution and so on and so forth. So we'll be back in 30 seconds. And we're back here at Java Chat, hanging out with Ray Wilson, CFO, and we were chatting on break, talk a little bit about some of the things that motivate and inspire us. And a lot of people, when they're going through, even when they're going through their education stages, you know, there's some points in time where you sit there and you go, oh, this is really going to work out. And then we come across a teacher or professor that, you know, is like, hey, listen, you can do this. Who were some of the influences in your life that either inspired you or kept you moving? And how did they do that?
Sure. Great question, Mike. Well, first of all, certainly always will be indebted to both my parents.
Sure.
Yeah, my father was an entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur.
Really?
Yes, he was actually in insurance, ran his own insurance agency. And, you know, when you look at it, because, you know, for the longest number of years, I've been a corporate guy, you know, so
Yeah.
you have two distinct, as you know, disciplines. And so certainly both my father and mother were great, strong influence, especially in education. You know, so when I graduated from high school, you know, there was the only option was college, you know, going to college. That was, you know, son, you want to go to college, get your degree, get something that you truly love, that you enjoy, and become a master at it, you know, and also be in a position to help people, work with people. And so that was my, obviously my first and, you know, forever primary influencer. And then throughout my career, I've had several mentors that kind of take me under their wings and, you know, kind of work with and talk about how you handle, you know, people day to day, you know, people that really want to see you succeed, you know, and I tell you, that's one thing that's kind of resonates with myself, Michael, in terms of working with individuals to help them be successful and progress. And so I wish we had, you know, I look at each of us as, you know, we've been blessed with skill sets. And I think it's incumbent upon each of us to be able to help those, especially those that are less fortunate, to be able to help, because we're all great people. We all have skills. We all have the ability, and sometimes it takes, you know, persons to be able to help pull that out and be able to develop and be, you know, be successful. And so, you know,
tell me more about that CEO that basically got you to come out of your shell. What was he like? Because he sounds like he was a bit of a motivator for you, at least to pull out the other side of you that had been hiding this whole time.
Yes. So I think, you know, you know, folks identified that I always wanted to go that extra step. You know, I never just wanted to just, you know, finish what I'm doing. I always looking at what else, you know, what I'm doing. How's that? How can I apply that to folks within the organization, to our customers, and being able to, again, and we'll talk about community, because I'm very, very big on community support, you know. You know, I talk about community give back. I talk about our corporate social responsibility, not only as an individual, but also as an organization. And so, and that's really been, geez, the last 20 years that I've really been big on that and getting involved. Hence, one of the reasons why I created the Las Vegas Health and Fitness Chamber of Commerce is to be able to drive that, you know, Las Vegas, you know, how do we make this, you know, from a health and wellness mecca, coming from Cleveland, certainly, you know, familiar obviously with the Cleveland Clinic, you know, we have one here in Outpost here in Las Vegas. And so, you know, it was really, I think, you know, seeing, you know, for those folks and my mentors that saw, you know, that, hey, I want to learn. I have, you know, I have a thirst and hunger for learning. I always want to keep learning and hence one of the reasons why I go to a lot of the events here is to learn and listen, because we all have talents, Michael, as you know, and it's interesting to hear and say, oh, wow, you know, that's something that I was not aware of, or let me think about that. You know, how can I apply that to myself to help others? And so that, you know, I love that. I love education. I love training. I love teaching. Simon Sinek, you know, the why, understanding the why. Why are we here? What's your why? You know, and you know, I wake up every morning with a purpose. You know, I wanted to make, you know, I want to do something today that's better than I did yesterday, that was better than the day before, and I enjoy that. You know, I like that. I don't want to be boring. I don't want to be dull. I want to be able to. Every day is you know, a gift from the Lord. You know that, hey, you know, I'm here. You know, and darn it, I'm going to enjoy it, and I want to help those that I can. And so I like to listen. I like to read. I'm always, you know, you got to continue. Otherwise, you get stale. You get boring. You get dull. And so,
did I hear you just say you like to read?
Yes. Yeah.
What kind of things do you like to read?
Good to Great. Jim Collins, yeah, love that book. I you know, I love reading. Any you put it in front of me, you know, I love to read. The challenge, though, from a timing standpoint,
yeah, I was gonna say,
hard, you know, it's hard, but I kind of. I don't sit still. I'm always moving, you know, and as you know, I like getting out there, and I like to hear.
I just, for those of you that didn't see it, because you're listening on a podcast, I kind of just rolled my eyes, because this is typical of Ray. When he's even at a networking event, he'll spend a little time in one spot, and then he'll move. He'll spend a little time in one spot and he'll move, and then people try and corner him, and he excuses himself. He knows how to get out of those circles, which is something that we teach in business etiquette. And he's very proficient at it, and he does it so politely. You look at him, you just go, God, this guy's just really good at this. This is fun. It's fun to watch, dude. I literally, I don't know if you see it, but every once in a while I'm looking, okay, where did he go now? What's he doing now?
Yeah, that's true.
It's interesting. A lot of the CFOs that I know, and I don't know a ton, but I know a few, they're not as high energy as you are. You're definitely a different cut in that realm. They're a lot more, and you're mellow to it in your own way, but I like when you're out in the community, man, you're out there, you're getting after it, you're being present, and you're listening, and you're talking, and you just don't always see that. Maybe, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're being just calm and quiet too until they get out in the community. But usually when I'm talking with them, they're pretty mellow dudes. Some of them kind of stoic. And if I'm wrong, and you're a CFO, get at me. I'll bring you on here too, and we'll chat more about that as well. But I think one of the cool things about and at the same time, sorry, I have a book for you. Remind me. It's a book from Marty Strong. You'll enjoy reading that one. It's not a very big book, but it's a book called Be Nimble, which is kind of what you were talking about earlier. With regards to, you know, how do we improve, how do we stay ahead of things so that we can take care of our clients, et cetera, et cetera. I think you'll enjoy that one. When you look at your market today, with what you're dealing with and who you serve and so on and so forth, what are some of the inspiring things that your own customers and clients give you as far as inspiration or as far as ideas or things of that? Because I know there's always the marketing thing going on, but when you have interactions with them, what are some of the things that, you know, yeah, I'm on the right path?
Sure. 2 words, Michael: financial literacy. That is huge, my friend.
Yes, insanely.
You know, it's interesting because I think certainly back when you and I were in the education system, you know, high school, junior high, so forth, you know, talking about, you know, financial literacy compared to what's offered today, or in a lot of cases not offered. And so I think sometimes the focus is really, you know, the proficiency graduation. And, you talk about things that, savings, budgeting, how to write a check, things that, quite frankly, I just
Managing credit, which nobody ever taught us when we were kids.
thank you. Understanding credit, using credit cards, debit cards. And so I really enjoy and appreciate the fact when I get out and have the opportunity to speak to teachers, speak to students, and to see the light bulb pop on, like, wow, and I love that. I love teaching. I think that if I had not gone the route that I have, I would have been a professor at a university. It's probably the path I would have gone.
I guarantee it would have been one of the most fun classes, and if I was home, I probably would have signed up for it.
Yes. Well, thank you. And so financial literacy, and so I love that. I love being able to teach, people about financial literacy, the basic.
Yeah,
of
just the basics are insanely, like, the generations have to teach themselves right now, and it's really sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
from yours and mine's down to the new Z-Gens, the only difference is we had to get it out of a freaking encyclopedia or from somebody else in the industry.
Yep.
These kids can now pick it up on Google and YouTube,
mm-hmm.
And even then they're not, because there's still a whole bunch of them out there making a lot of money and spending it like sailors, and it's like, what are you doing? Classic example, Shaq. He shared this story in a couple of interviews where, he was a brand new basketball player, and all of a sudden he's making millions, right? So he went down to a Mercedes dealership, bought himself a nice black Mercedes, drove it home, and dad saw the Mercedes, says, what about mine? And Shaq goes, you know what, you're right, it wasn't for you, I would have never started playing basketball, I wouldn't be where I'm at, let's go. So they went back down, $120,000, Mercedes. So they went back down to the dealership, they bought him one, they brought his car home. Mom looks up and goes, well, what about mine? Let's go. 3 Mercedes in one day, over $300,000. And this is back in the 90s, when he first started. And somebody from financial planning got a hold of him and said, hey, I want to talk to you. Says, you're a very promising athlete. You're going to be making a lot of money. I'm going to manage that for you. Like, literally just like told him, do you realize what happens to most sports players after they retire? They die broke. He says, I want to manage your money, and I want to show you how this works. And that guy took Shaq under his wing, and now look, Shaq could lose one business and not slightly be affected because of how many businesses he started, owns, and has shares in. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, he knows how to manage his money. And what was even funnier was recently he said, if my boys think they get into any of this, they have the damn minds. Mm-hmm. They're gonna have to go and earn their own.
Correct.
And I thought about that, and I was like, he's probably already teaching them what he learned. So mm-hmm. that statement in and of itself is not unfair. That statement is, they can do it just like I did it. I'm passing on what my mentor gave me. And as a thought, I don't know if you're doing classes, but I think there's a way we can get you doing this at UNLV, because I'm going to be talking with their board of advisors, and I know you're connected in there someplace, so it might be something to think about.
Sure.
That would be huge.
Yes.
So
yeah.
When it comes to things like in the educational realm, what kinds of things do you think are the most important for people that are entrepreneurs? What kinds of people talk about KPIs all the time and all of this kind of stuff, but what do you think are the most important things that they should pay attention to when it comes to business finance?
Sure. Well, certainly cash flow.
Yeah.
Cash is king. And so really putting a system into place that, as you know, I meet a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, you do.
And so, typically, what they're looking to do and what they want to do, certainly great. Obviously, they're very passionate about what to do, but surround yourself with people that can help you provide that support, especially in those areas that you may not have these strengths, whether it be, finance, accounting, marketing, human resource, product management. You have to do what you do best. And that's why you are who you are and where you're at. But surround yourself with, again, people smarter than you, being able to delegate, but also hold people accountable. And so, I see, the challenge where you got a very passionate entrepreneur, very has a product or a product skill service that they want to deliver to the community. It's more efficient, more effective, but it's just them. And then, they don't have, the human resources, the people that can help them, to really be able to deliver and so forth. So, getting yourself surrounded with the right people, the resources out there. So you've got to continually look at what's out there, Michael, for resources, with the entrepreneur. So being able to tap into, that the resources that are available, and getting people that, as we talk, oh, wow, here's something that I need to think about that I can tap into. Who do I need to speak to? Who do I need to contact? And so those are the things I think as an entrepreneur, being able to, be cognizant of your surroundings and being able to work and collaborate and have people. It takes a village, as you know, to raise a child. It's so critical to as an entrepreneur, because you're passionate about what you do. That's why you're have gone down that entrepreneurial path, and you want to be able to share that and be able to deliver to the marketplace a smarter mousetrap.
Yeah.
But you've got to have the resources internally, being able to trust and depend on folks that can help lift you and get there.
I think a good portion of that time, a lot of entrepreneurs unfortunately learn the hard way that, and I've had this in previous interviews too, where it's like, I thought I had the right partner because this guy's truly brilliant, but he didn't want to do any work. Mm-hmm. Or I thought I just saw this on LinkedIn too. Guy seemed like he fit into the community, didn't really have the qualifications, but we decided to give him a chance anyway. Guy's been promoted twice within the last 6 months. Mm-hmm. You never know.
Correct.
So you have to create a good vetting process, to know who you're dealing with and who's potentially even being given a partnership, an equity position, or a job, and which one to offer. Being able to tell the difference. Like you said, surrounding yourself with really intelligent people, that's one thing, but what capacity are they going to be serving in? Because as a partner, you're expecting them to be on the clock pretty much 24/7, just like you. If they're an employee, they get a 9 to 5 or whatever the hours is that you agree to. And there are benefits and drawbacks on both. Mm-hmm. Right. In the financial picture of things, all of that shows up on the balance sheet. If it's a partner, they might be taking a salary, or they might just be taking an owner's draw every once in a while because they have their own stuff. Well, that shows up on the sheet. An employee definitely shows up on the sheet, and that's a consistent expense. Right. Because that's something that has to be. Yeah, I have to get back into my own head to remember all the right terms. It's like, it's a cost. No, it's an expense. We have to call it an expense. When somebody's looking at, let me see how I can do this. What are some of the best examples that you've seen of an entrepreneur that's doing it right, managing cash flow properly? And what did you see that was so? What elements do you think were the most relevant to why that success was happening?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Great question, Michael. Again, as you know, being on the networking circuit, I run into, as primarily entrepreneurs. And, I think when, they've got, especially if it's a VC, venture capital funded company, or PE, private equity, also they've been involved with M&A, merger and acquisition. And I think, certainly looking where I've spoke with people to understand their why and what they're doing, being able to effectively work with people, collaborate. And I think certainly I see that ability to deliver on that. Again, from the cash flow standpoint, being able to ensure cash flow, you do a mezzanine fundraising, seed money, and so forth, and being able to tap into those resources. So it's that ability to get your message and influence and speak with people and help me help you in terms of understanding what I'm doing, so that you've, as a potential investor, Michael, have that, okay, yeah, I get this, I see this. Here's what the expectation is, and because you've got to, otherwise, you can only tap your family so much. You can only tap your credit card so much, but you've got to be able to, and it takes time. The challenge with entrepreneurs, including yours truly, is patience. It's like you want it and you wanted it yesterday, and so it's working. It takes time, as you know, to be able to deliver. So those are the things that I've seen, certainly, as I speak with entrepreneurs here. I'm telling you, Michael, Las Vegas, we of course always learn and know about Silicon Valley, but Las Vegas is becoming a mecca, a hotbed for those entrepreneurial ideas, those spirits. I love what I see. I love what I see here in this community of Las Vegas in terms of entrepreneurship and what is happening. So Las Vegas is making some noise. I always like to use the word disruptor. In the fintech world, a disruptor. And so I see Las Vegas. We've got some organizations that that are big supporters. You've got the angel funds out there. So it happened. Just like switching gears, just like healthcare. I see this Las Vegas is becoming more and more prominent in the healthcare landscape. So yeah, it just I really working with entrepreneurs and talking with them, and being able to see how they're able to work with the folks, being able to get that message across.
That's really interesting. You started talking about investing, because that's one of the things I did want to touch on with you, and we'll do that in the next section.
Sure.
Guys, want to take one more 30-second break. When we come back, we'll chat a little bit more about Ray and what he likes to invest in, and some of the things that he's doing as an angel investor. Yeah, coffee for sure. All right, guys, back in 30. Hey guys, back here, Java Chat. Wow, that was a nice deep breath. I'm feeling really good these days. That's cool. But for those of you that don't know, I'm literally just coming off of an upper respiratory infection. I was down for 2 weeks, and like for the last couple weeks after that, I've been trying to rebuild my respiratory strength, and that was a nice deep breath. That actually really felt good. During the break, Ray and I started talking a little bit about, because you guys know this last section is usually the shameless promotion section, blah blah blah. Ray actually works with with Silver State Credit Union. I did say the name correctly, correct?
Silver State Schools Credit
Silver State Schools Credit Union. And you would think that kind of limits membership. It doesn't. They're open to anybody. But one of the things that Ray and I had discussed, and we've been talking about entrepreneurship, is that credit unions are starting to get into business products. That hasn't been a lot in credit unions. Most times credit unions just want to take care of their members and take care, if you got a house, you want to get a car, blah, blah, blah. But now all of a sudden they're like looking at entrepreneurs and people that have businesses and going, hey, how can we help you as well? If you're a member of the credit union, there are these things called MBLs, which I'm going to let Ray explain a little bit more about. One, what it stands for, and then what it actually is as far as how that works. This is a shift in my head from what was to what's coming, like you were talking about. You have to be flexible and you have to be able to move along with what the market is asking for. So how did Silver State Schools Credit Union catch on to that, and what are you guys doing?
Sure. Well, of course, last year we were celebrating our 70th year anniversary.
Wow, that's
yeah,
nice.
70 years, yes. And when we talk about MBL, member business lending, so in the banking world, we call it commercial lending.
Right.
We call our customers in banking in the credit union space, member business lending, or our members. And so, and a big difference, in terms of the banking versus credit unions, the whole, the mission, the vernacular was used. And we've got some great credit unions, Michael, here in the Valley. It's and it's interesting. Nationally, there's about 5,200 banks, and approximately that same number of credit unions. So,
really?
Well, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Now that's both numbers for both banks and credit unions have come down significantly over the past 40 years. Merger and acquisitions, typically consolidations and so forth.
And then they took the regional limits off of the bigger banks and allowed them to go play in everybody else's backyard.
Yeah, we had the big liquidity crisis, as you know, the global liquidity crisis back in 08, 09, that really shook things up in that. So, but as I mentioned, like we were talking about during the break, I love the credit union space. I love what we do, our core values, the work ethic, and what we're able to deliver, but also being agile to listen to what our members are asking for, as well as looking at what's happening, the trends around us, and that's so key, because as I talked before, relevancy, staying relevant, because people, again, folks have choices they can make, and that's great. We all have choices, and we should have choices. And so being able to deliver a product or service and being able to be more effective, more efficient, more economically to deliver. And so that's, our hallmark is that excellent member service that we provide each and every transaction. So, and that,
what kind of MBLs do you guys have at present that, let's say, somebody that's a startup could possibly get access to?
Sure. So in terms of MBL, certainly we have, obviously requirements in terms of, having been in business for the past 2 years, being able to show, financial statements, again, just like any other credit union and bank, in terms of looking at the underwriting process, but also having that friendly voice to be able to have that conversation, to be able to help those, especially that are starting off, to be able to work with, listen, and understand. And you've got a lot of resources, even beyond the credit union and the banking space, in terms of the SBA, Small Business Administration. There's a lot of resources, and that's where I would always encourage, look at all the resources that are available to you, and then listen, learn, understand, and educate yourself to be able to see, what's out there. I think sometimes we get tunnel vision, and we don't look outside the blinders to be able to see what's out there, because there is a ton of resources that are helpful, and in a lot of cases no cost. And so being able to get that, and I think can really help. You got SCORE, the Service Corps engineers, and so it's just a lot of good information out there. And so I would always encourage any startup business, small business, to have been able to utilize those resources and be able to learn and educate, because again, as an entrepreneur, you got an idea, you got a service that you're really excited about, and so as far as the SCORE, SBA are two prominent organizations, the retired executives, and that's actually an organization that I certainly like to get involved with after I've retired on and so forth.
Good bunch of guys, really good bunch of guys. Met a few of them, definitely guys that have been there, done that. Here's one I know I'm probably going to get asked one of these days. As an entrepreneur, when you're looking at finding lending for your business, what can one expect? Like, because you just mentioned, make sure you got good financials. What can somebody expect to be approved for as a ratio? Because there's the ratio. Some companies, like, you got to make 30,000 to get 10,000. You got to make 100,000 to get 10,000, whatever that is. What can it, on an average, a business expect that they need to make in order to have a successful consideration for financing of any kind?
Sure. Very good question, Michael. Certainly, obviously, a profitable, organization, 2 years running. You look at your debt service ratio. So you look at your loan covenants. Basically your items that are spelled out that you will meet in terms of debt service, cash flow ratios, looking at profitability, return on equity, return on investment. And so those are some key indicators that credit unions and banks, from a commercial member business lending, look at to be able to see where the organization is going, what it's looking to do. A business plan. Please have a business plan. A lot of times it's up here, but paper. Get a plan. Work with a outside accountant. To be able to help you put the pro formas, numbers together, develop a business plan to be able to, that's your message, that's your document to be able to present to a bank or a credit union. So those are the things that, you look at, in terms from a lending, among other things, but those are, certainly primary factors. And then the ratios that I've just described, in terms of the
any kind of averages on the ratios that people should be looking for, or that, because when they sit down with an accountant, they're going to be like, oh, I don't know what this means.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any kind of actual number that you can think of that people need to consider when it comes to debt ratio, or when it comes to debt service versus profitability? Anything that you can?
You look at your current assets, current receivables, cash.
Let's say that's 20,000 a month.
Mm-hmm. So 240,000 a year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's, they're a startup. This is what happens.
Yep.
Right? And their debt service is probably somewhere around 40% of that.
Mm-hmm.
What can they? The rest of that is what the banks or credit unions would basically base their assessment off of, correct?
Sure. And that's not just the only, obviously, ratio.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean,
but I think. And so when you look at that, as you got a 5 times, looking at, but I think the important thing is the pro forma prospectively, where you're looking at not only, you see what's happened in the past, as a startup, you've got, a couple of years of losses typically, and then you see the trend here in the most recent 2 years in terms of from an income standpoint. But I think more importantly, prospectively, what in terms of looking at the use of funds, and that's the other big statement, a source of uses of funds, cash flow statement, to be able to, it's not only for a bank or credit union to look at, but also for you as an entrepreneur to know and understand. You got to, you got the idea, but and again, talking about surrounding yourself with people that you've got the resources, and in this case, getting an accountant, a business plan advisor, being able to have that conversation, to be able to put something on paper to see kind of, because it can be quite revealing, even though at times you may not want to do one, but you've got to develop a business plan, because it's hard to be able to work, when you've got, there's not, everything's up here, and you need to get that on paper.
Yeah, no, that's first couple of businesses I did that. And I did the it's all up here. We got it. It's all good.
Yeah.
No, we didn't have it. It wasn't all good. Since then, there have been businesses where we could, and there were some most businesses that I've had that we couldn't do it without a business plan.
Sure.
And then, of course, it's a dynamic document anyway. It will always evolve. It will never be the same thing. If you look at whose was it? The original business plan. Well, most of the big corporations that are out there now that came out of these small little towns, if you ever went to their original business plan, it looks nothing like what they are now. It's an absolute shadow of whatever it was. And this is why Ray's saying this, have something that you can base a foundation off of that you can evolve from. If you don't even have that, you're not really running a business. So that should be loud and clear.
Correct.
Where can people find you if they want to ask, questions? Yeah, I know you're on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Well,
So, sure. Our website, www.silverstatecu, all one word, silverstatecu.com. And all the information and all that good stuff all can be found certainly on their website. As you know, we're very prominent in social media, social engagement. You've got to be a player in that space. You got to have a good, clear website, being able to navigate, being able to find what you need, as well as being out there. Nobody, I should say nobody, in terms of the newspapers, it's that print on the newspapers, most people go online. I mean, we're online, and even at times it's a challenge, where people do all their banking online, that we all grew up with the newspaper and branches, people going to the branch. And so, again, we all have options. Everything has a purpose, as you know, Michael, and everything has certainly its benefits. And, heck, I even still go into the branches, I like that, as you know, that face-to-face, I love the online where I need to. I also like going to the branches and have that face-to-face conversation, so that's, I would encourage, folks to visit our website. And, we've got, whether it be, consumer lending, member business lending, whether it's, looking to a credit card, automobile, mortgage, please visit our website.
Sweet. Wonderful. Guys, as you know, the links to follow Ray will be below. I did a credit union site or his LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with him. He's very welcoming. He's very open about things. If you got questions, he'll give you his honest advice.
Sure.
And to have a CFO that's just willing to do that is huge. Most of them don't have time. If you're watching, don't forget there's a subscribe button down there and there's a bell next to that. Make sure you hit them both. One, you'll stay in touch with us. Two, we'll let you know when the next good interview like this comes up. If you're listening to us on any of the podcasting platforms, I used to say how many there are. There are too many now. If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, make sure you subscribe, download, leave us a review, especially the guys on Apple. I know that we don't have a ton of them, but if you wouldn't mind, we would love to have your opinion. Whatever that opinion may be. We've got good ones, we've got bad ones. So right now I got one bad one, which was hilarious. I'm very thankful for anybody saying anything. And make sure of all of this, share this with somebody. You're gonna know somebody that you're gonna hear this and go, they're going through this right now. Maybe they should listen to this stuff. And then that person can follow up with very later. It's all about bringing you guys the information. It's about bringing you guys the information and insight to what goes on. This one was a little more corporate view. Maybe next time, Ray, if we can get together again, we'll talk more on the health and fitness chamber side of things and how that all evolved. Okay. Guys, we love you. We love the fact that you take the time to make the time to come and listen and watch, hang out with us, and have a cup of Java. It's a group thing. So, but above all, make sure you love each other, take care of each other. We're getting there.
Oh yes,
right.
Yes.
So remember, stay up, stay safe, stay healthy, and live. Okay. Myself, Coffee with Mike and Ray Wilson. Ciao for now.
For more information on Java Chat, visit www.javachatpodcast.com. You've been listening to Coffee with Mike on Java Chat. Tune in weekly to this podcast for the next episode. You can also download or subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. A production of Oasis Media Group, LLC. Located in Las Vegas, Nevada. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved.